would you begin to explain PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds? Well, before Mario 64, there were no major 3D platformers.
Halo turned console shooting games into global franchises. Grand Theft Auto made open worlds popular. And in the years to come, PubG will be remembered for bringing battle royale games to the mainstream.
So how does something that seems like quite a simple gaming concept go from a niche community to the hottest game in the world right now?
Well, to figure it out, we've come to Seoul in South Korea to track down the brains behind it all.
Yes, the very mysterious PlayerUnknown himself.
Coming up on the show.
Living on the dole. About a week later, I moved full-time to Seoul.
But before we get into it all, for the uninitiated, this is what you're missing out on.
The way the game works is you have over 100 people dropped into this giant map with just the clothes on their back. So you basically have to run around all these different houses and different locations and try and find some weaponry and scavenge. Best you can. Oh my God, I got a shot, damn it. See, look, this is why you don't do pieces to camera while you're playing the game.
Inspired by cult Japanese film Battle Royale. And the Hunger Games films.
Make sure they remember you.
The idea is to take out everybody else on the island and be the last man or woman standing.
As you're playing the game, the map starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And before PubG came along, not an awful lot of people had actually tried it.
Now, usually big blockbuster titles are developed by massive teams of people, but the story behind this one is a bit different.
And this is where the magic happens. A new studio called PubG Corp is where the game was turned into a global smash hit. More than 20 million copies sold on PC, up to 3 million people playing at any given time, and a top 5 UK release on the Xbox. And it all started in the mind of this man, PlayerUnknown himself.
I was in Brazil. I moved there for the love of a beautiful woman. And,
As you do.
Yeah, and we got married and divorced about 2 years later. It just didn't work out. We were just wrong for each other. And then I was in Brazil, basically bored and trying to save to come home, and discovered Arma 2 and discovered the DayZ mod, and that kind of reignited my love of gaming, because here was a game that there was no rules. There were rules of the world, but that was it. You could do whatever the hell you want. Whatever story you wanted to tell, you could tell it. And I fell in love with that kind of game.
And obviously, you know, not coming from a kind of gaming background, how difficult was it to kind of jump into that?
I understood it. I was a web developer as well, so I kind of understood how the code was written. So I kind of started breaking into other mods and kind of seeing, okay, how do they do this? And
what did they do there?
Exactly, and because Arma is all open and the modding community is very supportive, everything's there for you to use and to reuse and to learn from. So it wasn't that hard to jump into it, because ultimately, I was just trying to make a game that I wanted to play.
Modding is basically when games are tweaked and changed by the community that plays them to add new content.
You download an app, watch some tutorials, and get stuck into a game's source code. Changes can range from small things like, well, updating the name of players in Pro Evo, adding new and, well, sometimes interesting new characters, and boosting graphics to create entirely new storylines and worlds to explore.
It's something that happens more with PC games, but titles like Grand Theft Auto and Minecraft are making modding more relevant to console owners now as well.
So I decided to move back to Ireland, living on the dole, basically, social welfare. And parents telling me, what the hell are you doing? And I was like, I'm making this free mode. I got an email from Chang and Kim, our CEO and EP here, saying I've always wanted to make a Battle Royale game. They flew me out to Seoul, we talked with the team here, and about a week later I moved full-time to Seoul. If you look at like the biggest games in the last 10 years, 15 years, they're all mods. You know, Dota, CSGO, League even, they're all kind of modifications or someone's passion project.
So why is it so important for you to sort of continually kind of support mods and modding community, or is that something you know?
No, because I want to find the next PlayerUnknown. I want to give some other kid or adult or whoever, you know, a chance to make their vision for a game, you know? And like, I would encourage anyone that's thinking about a game, try modding first.
Helping Brendan turn his idea from a fun mod enjoyed by hundreds of players into a major console release was C.H. Kim, one of the men who enticed him to come to South Korea.
Compared to me, who had just the ideas in my head, Brendan was already developing a game with a small community through his mod service. It was clear that his knowledge and skills would be better than my ideas. However, as Brendan didn't have a development team, when combined with our capabilities, I thought we could make a great piece of work together.
More from the studio in just a few minutes. But to tell the story of this meteoric rise to stardom of this game, we actually don't really need Brendan or CH at all.
No, what we do need though is some help from friends back at home. More specifically, from some of the people that help PubG make the jump to the big time.
I think streamers have been a huge part of the rise of popularity in PubG.
Made the dash.
Oh, he's a dead man.
I'm not addicted to this game. What are you talking about?
Hi, we're Hat Films. I'm Ross Hornby.
I'm Chris Trott.
And I'm Alex Smith, and we spend a lot of time streaming PubG.
I just look how comfortable I am. Oh, man.
Oh. Jesus. Oh, Jesus.
Ooh,
I died.
We're both down. Well, the first time we played it was maybe a month after it was released.
Yeah.
Once we started playing it, we could not stop, but there were a lot of bugs.
Well, it was fun, though.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
you could clearly see the appeal instantaneously, the idea of dropping in with 100 other people and starting from scratch every single game. It just sunk its hooks in immediately.
Oh, you're losing control. Whoa! We're landing upside down. Oh, it's hurt me.
All the little decisions that build up to these big moments are something that your audience can participate in. So every choice you make, every decision to pick up what piece of equipment or where to go on the map, you have time to allow your audience to interact with you at that level. You know, they can tell you what they think is best or what they think of the particular gun you've just picked up. And yeah, so when those big gunfights and those big successes do eventually happen, they feel like they've been a part of that because
they've contributed. Yeah,
they have, because they have contributed. They've helped you along the way.
Back at the studio in Seoul, and the team are still busy working on developing new content and keeping that momentum going. But why did Brendan choose to grow his game here?
Oh, just their passion, like the concepts I'd seen and the way they talked about what they wanted to do, that really convinced me. All these people really have this supreme passion for making great games. Like, they love what they do. It's an insane PC culture here, you know, or gaming culture, you know. Like, I mean, you go on the subway here and everyone is on their phone playing a game. You know, that there's such a passion for playing games here. It's great.
In the early stage of game development, I thought we should start with what we could do best. Game developers in Korea, me and my team included, have worked on online multiplayer RPG titles for a long time. So we've built a solid foundation for online server-based games. When you look at the Battle Royale genre, it might look like a shooter genre, but it's closer to a large-scale online server-based game, with some features of MMO where a lot of people connect to a server at the same time. From a technical point of view, we thought it was a genre we could develop well, and that's why we started developing it.
The move to Korea helped develop the game itself, but it takes more than word of mouth, or rather word of streamers, to make people want to play it.
Marketing, advertising and promotion have been stepped up just like every other major console release. And you can see the impact that this is having.
My favorite thing is like that I can get really nervous by the game. This game genre is not horror, right? But I get scared sometimes. but I get excited sometimes, so I can feel lots of emotions in this game.
It's fun to play together. It is very easy to play. You don't need any special skills. You just like you win, it's awesome. You don't win, you just go again.
The map is getting smaller. It's like really exciting. It the adrenaline gets you, and when you're like 5 people left in a small zone, and you just, I want to win.
And you can see the impact that this is having. At major conventions, the game's gone from having a small stand to dominating show floors.
From small beginnings, PubG now finds itself not only as a global gaming brand, but also a developing e-sport too, with tournaments like this one taking place all the time. Now here at the G-Star convention in Busan in South Korea, people have been queuing for hours to watch their favourite players take each other on, and the action's just getting started.
I would like to preface this by saying these are not esports events.
Okay, sorry, it's not. Although you are competitively playing an electronic game, technically that's esports. Just so we're.
But the thing is, like, we see it all the time. Oh, esports ready, lol, right? And it's like we're not esports ready. We're not even like what we're doing with these events is really just testing formats. We believe that Battle Royale could be an amazing esport, but we have to get it right, and we have to build a great foundation for it to happen, and that takes time, you know. And figuring out the right format, figuring out how to do it, and you know, how to run these events that it gives, you know, the organisers enough airtime and the players feel that it's fair. It's going to take us time, but we're in no rush, you know. Like, we've seen so many games that have come out and gone, more in esport, and they're not around anymore, you know. It's like we want to take this slowly, and while the whole community are going, oh, esports ready, we're not, and we will be someday.
Since the game's much anticipated release on the Xbox, there have been plenty of teething problems. It is still part of the Xbox preview program, and so it's not the finished article yet, as it quite openly says when people start the game. Despite that, some players and critics have been disappointed by some performance issues. Low frame rates, clunky graphics, and gameplay crashes are just some of the criticisms that have been levelled at the title's console version. It's not what they expect from a major release. However, despite that, the game still has fans coming back for more. The format's also caught the attention of the industry as a whole, and some others have made titles that, to put it diplomatically, are pretty similar to PubG. Games like Fortnite and Paladins have introduced Battle Royale modes, and some Chinese games are barely distinguishable.
It's always going to happen. You know, that's the way, like, you look at movies, you know, Armageddon came out and then 20 other comet movies came out afterwards. It's going to happen, but, you know, for us, well, for me, it's like, I want this genre to grow, right? And I believe for a genre to grow, you have to have new and interesting spins on the game mode, right? If it's just copycats all down the line, genre doesn't grow, people get bored, oh, it's the same, copy. So, you know, I just want other developers to, yeah, it's a battle royale, but try to put your own spin on it, and don't just lift things from us and go, whoa, well, they're popular, so let's just copy. You know, it's going to happen, but, you know, one thing we want to look into is, like, for example, there's no IP protection in gaming. You know, in movies, in music, there's IP protection, you know, that you really can protect your work. But in gaming, that doesn't exist yet.
Sadly now, our time here at the PubG offices is over. I mean, they do actually have to get a game out at some point, and me just whizzing around on the Segway is not really helping that. But it seems a missed opportunity, you know, to come all the way here and not play PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds without the PlayerUnknown himself. So that's what we're going to go and do now.
Where's mine?
So the BBC has quite a strict 3-strike policy, and they said you're not allowed to do anything that involves core strength anymore because it's dangerous. They can't get it signed off.
That's not right.
It's good for getting him going. Look at this. I'm not even just barely using my fingers. Run and hide, run and hide. Okay, which way am I going?
Into the house.
Into the house. Like, what are some of the big kind of rookie errors? Oh no! I'm gonna die!
Don't die straight away.
No,
Run and hide.
I'm so dead.
This is the one.
No! Punch it!
Punch it.
Oh my god! Well, it's a number, that's for sure. So obviously, like one of the.
We have come all the way to Seoul to play PlayerUnknown's Battleground with PlayerUnknown himself.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we lasted all of. How long did we last?
I feel like that was about 30 seconds from about landing on the ground.
Well, Brendan, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, goodbye. I compare it to poker. It's like everyone starts with the same deck. There's the same number of weapons, the same this on the ground, and depending on how you play your game, like you can bluff, you can pick your fights, you can decide to go all in, but you may lose. But you know, it's this idea that once you get to that final table or that top 10, you know, you got real adrenaline because you worked for it. You know, like you got rid of 100 players and you're in the top 10 and you really feel adrenaline every time.
So that went well?
Yeah, I mean, what you didn't see was the kind of 10 minutes of waiting around and then the 10 minutes before that where they were kind of running around, kind of setting up for, and let's be kind, 25 seconds
20
actual gameplay. Okay, all right, 20.
So we've spent the day behind the scenes with one of the hottest properties in gaming. What do you take away from the experience then, Jules?
Well, I'm quite inspired after meeting Brendan, I have to say. I mean, you've got a guy who, you know, was doing nothing to do with gaming. He just had this passion project, stuck with it. Everything he's learned, lest we forget, was all on-the-job training. And then he's had this incredible success. And you know what? It just goes to show that anything is possible at the moment, even in games. I feel like I need a side hustle.
For me, though, I think this can't be the end of the story. They've done really well to get this far, sell all the copies they've sold, have so many players. But what's next? You know, they're competing with the big dogs now, and I know they're working really hard in the studio. You can see that, trying to develop the concept and keep gamers coming back for more. Should we go and have a chicken dinner?
I did see some crabs over there. Do you want crabs?
Oh, we didn't win, did we? Suppose we can't have a chicken dinner.
Does that mean you have to have crabs?
No, it's got crabs in it.
Oh.